Absolute's business is in picking up the pieces after a disaster, such as a fire, flood or explosion, and as such we've seen at first hand the effect on a business or an organisation of a disaster. Recover or fail, the dividing line between recover or fail of an organisation after a disaster can be a fine one. It can also be some time after a disaster before the outcome is actually known. Start with some statistics. These are provided by Aviva and they're a year or so old, but they still apply. Half of all SMEs admit to not having a business continuity plan. 80% of businesses affected by a major incident close within 18 months. 90% of businesses that lose data from a disaster are forced to shut down within 2 years. This is more relevant now than 10 years ago due to the advance of the digital age. And you've been speaking to, or you've been spoken to by data recovery people, and there's some in the building now. It can take over a year to get back to normal trading after a serious incident or interruption. In a recent survey, 33% of SMEs thought they could recover in a week. 31% thought a month. Normal trading means different things to different organisations. For example, a restaurant would take longer to recover goodwill and customers after a fire than, say, a bicycle repair shop. Incorrect insurance adds to problems of recovery. If in the aftermath of a disaster you find your insurance is incorrect, then you're adding to the problems of your recovery. Just to expand on that, common insurance problems are your property is underinsured. A recent study showed that 55% of restaurants and 68% of hotels are underinsured. The number of homes where the value of reinstatement of the building is underinsured is as startling. Another problem, does the business insurance correctly include machinery, external features such as outbuildings and storage, etc.? Do you have the correct type of insurance? Will your insurance provide for the provision of temporary accommodation? Will it provide for business interruption, which are basically the expenses of continuing to operate? Another problem is if you rent or lease the building and the landlords insure, does the cover extend to any improvements you have made to the property? An insurance policy is a contract between you and the insurer. If you underinsure, then like any other contract between parties, the terms of the contract will be applied. This could mean a reduced payment, leaving the organisation with a balance to pay themselves, which on a large claim may be sufficient to end any business recovery there and then. I've dwelt on the insurance aspects, as if you don't have the correct insurance, it doesn't matter how good your business continuity plan is, it won't cover any additional money required due to incorrect insurance. It won't happen to me. We've seen quite a few weather problems and their effect on businesses in the past few years, ranging from extensive floods in Carlisle, East Yorkshire, Worcestershire, Cumbria, through to heavy snowfall and freezing last year. A burst water pipe can be as effective as a fire in damaging offices and production facilities. There are some further statistics added at the bottom there, which are from the Office for National Statistics, showing the number of fires in England, and they're a decade apart. The number of fires has halved in the decade. And the percentage attributable to non-businesses has risen. If you look, the number of fires has actually halved, but the number of business fires has actually stayed steady. The causes of fires are numerous, but mostly are electrical faults in equipment, fuse boards, wiring, even light fittings. Sorry, slightly out of order there. This one, it happened to us. The first picture is a charity HQ in Manchester on 3 floors. A fire occurred during the night in a piece of electrical equipment on the top floor. The burglar alarm was activated and remotely monitored. However, the location of the property meant the female key holder would only attend with the police in attendance. They didn't turn up, so the key holder left, only to get a call back 2 hours later to say that flames are coming out of the roof. The extent of the fire was significant. However, a whole floor was totally smoke-logged and the lower floors were saturated with water due to the fire brigade's actions. The amount of water the fire brigade put into a building during a fire can be quite surprising. The charity didn't have a business continuity plan. However, Absolute had attended the site in the morning, and part of the process was we carried out salvage operations to recover critical paper documentation and transport to a nearby store to allow the charity to continue. We recovered PCs and servers, including backup disks. The server and backup disks were actually in the same room. The data was able to be recovered, quite luckily. The PCs were all written off due to the smoke damage. Just as a matter of interest, we've actually found out from our own experience that whilst PCs can actually be cleaned, the hard disks will fail eventually, whether it's 6 months or a year, due to smoke contamination. Basically, smoke is a cocktail of uncombusted material, most of which are toxic and react with each other and with other plastics, particularly hard disk drives. We isolated all the services in the buildings for health and safety, secured the building to prevent unauthorised access. This again is a health and safety requirement. Also prevents further damage, which is a responsibility of the policyholder. We arranged for structural engineers to attend to assess the safety of the structure. Because they didn't have a business continuity plan and part of their records were damaged, they didn't have an asbestos register, so there's no knowledge of any asbestos. So asbestos surveys undertaken which identified significant asbestos materials in the buildings which were exposed and degraded due to the fire and water damage. The second picture is of a school which had a fire at close of day in a light fitting which destroyed the classroom, its roof and adjacent stores. The rest of the classrooms adjacent were smoke logged. The fire was spotted almost immediately by the caretaker, but there was still a significant amount of fire damage. The school actually did have an emergency plan with the local authority. Unfortunately, it didn't work. The head teacher needed the school open again as quickly as possible. In this day and age of both parents working, schools are under pressure to be open so that the parents do not have to take time off work. The school understood their responsibilities and prospective liabilities in their everyday situation. However, they couldn't extend this into their disaster situation, which was a different set of circumstances. The school actually needed the damaged areas screening off from the rest of the school and playground with child-friendly, resistant screening. The services needed isolating to allow the rest of the school to continue. The smoke-logged areas were ventilated with extractor equipment, including filtration and deodorization. Smoke-logged areas were cleaned and then tested for contaminants. Air quality was then screened and monitored for air quality during and after cleaning to ensure it meets standards. Health and safety assessments for the use of the screened-off playground areas were undertaken. Health and safety assessments for changes in school evacuation plans and moving assembly points were undertaken as well. Provision of temporary classrooms was undertaken, albeit utilising underused spaces within the school. Also, provision of a temporary safe playground space due to the number of pupils. These were all services provided by Absolute. Okay, it's happened. Now what? First thing is you activate your continuity plan. Unfortunately, that is not the end of your problems. Whilst you should be dealing with the effect of the disaster on your business or organisation, you now have to deal with the disaster itself. This is a distraction, to say the least. You will have to deal with the insurers and their loss adjusters. If you've had a fire, then the insurance company will require at least one forensic investigation company to attend the damaged premises and to report to them and the loss adjusters before any action is taken by them on the claim. The damaged property will need making safe. This will entail demolition works or just isolating the services. This is a health and safety issue. Demolition due to safety is sometimes undertaken by the local authority immediately and then billed to the property owner. You need to prevent access. Again, this is a health and safety issue as well as a legal issue, as well as preventing further damage which could be avoided and for which you could be liable if you did not take steps. You may be able to salvage stock or other business tools for use immediately, including records. After this point, you will also be dealing with the process of restoring your property. How long will it take? The time period from the disaster incident to moving back in can vary and will depend on numerous factors. The first period is from notifying insurers to the attendance of the loss adjusters and the time taken to agree that the claim is valid. This can take, I can see AXA are laughing here. This can take several weeks, and in a simple case, months, and if there are complications. From this point, the timings can diverge. If you don't have business interruption insurance, then there is a perception, right or wrong, that there is no pressure on loss adjusters to expedite matters. The presence of a business interruption element to a claim can, shall we say, concentrate the efforts of the loss adjusters to get best value for insurers by expediting matters, reducing timescale and therefore overall costs. It must also be remembered that insurers and their loss adjusters are always looking for best value when it comes to reinstatement costs, and this can have a drag on timescales. From our own experience, we have had house fires which have taken 18 months from fire to handback. A lightning strike on a house which caused a fire took 1 year from incident to handback. How you can say whether a lightning strike is a liability issue, I don't know, or argue over it, but there we go. The charity HQ took about 17 months due to the presence of asbestos, as well as other issues. These are tips that we would recommend. Ensure you have correct, adequate insurance cover. Talk to your brokers. Try to avoid going online for insurance. You need the personal approach to get the best value as well as the best cover. Ensure you have a business continuity plan. Test your business continuity plan on a regular basis and update as required. The hardest thing is getting it down on paper. It's easy to edit it afterwards, and you need to test it. Have a battle box for when a disaster happens. A battle box can mean different things to different people. Instances of items you can put in there is an up-to-date copy of your business continuity plan, building site plan, computer backup tapes, computer software and hardware inventory, insurance papers, a checkbook because you'll have to pay bills, stationery and a company seal, first aid kit, radio and spare batteries if it's a local or regional problem because you're asked to listen into the radio service, copy of a list to-dos in the first hour after the incident, copy of to-dos for when you pass the immediate hour, torches, a digital camera to record what's going on, a basic toolkit. Even for those in a remote area, have a mobile phone charged up so that you can use and make contact with people. A little bit of self-publicity there in number 5. As part of your recovery plan, ensure you have suitable expertise to recover from your disaster, and if needs be, to take over, leaving you to deal with recovering your business and running your organisation. Hopefully, you will never ever have to experience a major claim, but the law of large numbers suggests that in this room there will be several businesses that will experience just such an event. I hope I've given you an insight into why we consider a business continuity plan is necessary, but that it is just one vital component of a successful post-disaster recovery plan for any business organisation. As part of the download facility, we'll be providing some business continuity plan resources if you leave all your details with Storm, and they'll be emailing out these links. If you have any questions, then myself and my colleague are at the back, and we can discuss any questions you might have. Thank you.